The story begins with a plane battling a terrible storm. Our main character, Linda, is returning from a business trip with her friends. Everything was going well, until suddenly, the plane began to shake violently. The next moment, a massive explosion erupted. Passengers who weren't wearing seatbelts were thrown around in terror. Immediately, the cabin burst under pressure. Some people were blown out by the strong wind. In the chaos, the manager grabbed Linda's leg tightly, trying to save his own life. A man rushed to the boss for help, but he was brutally pushed out of the plane. As he fell, he grabbed the manager's leg, completely throwing off his balance. They both fell out of the plane together. Linda hadn't even recovered from the shock when she realized, darkness was falling all around her. The plane was dropping uncontrollably, straight toward the sea. Luckily, the angle of impact prevented the plane from exploding immediately. And somehow, she survived. But water was rushing in fast. Linda unbuckled her seatbelt and swam out. Even her escape brought her no relief. She was now trapped between a desolate shoreline and a never-ending sea. Then she saw it. A small island. She swam with all her might toward it. By morning, she had somehow reached the island. For the moment, she had saved her life. But she had no idea that the real danger was about to begin. After walking a short distance, her eyes fell on a man lying on the shore. She immediately ran toward him and looked closer. It was none other than her boss, Bradley. And that's when everything changed. Bradley had also survived the accident. He had been swept unconscious by the waves and washed up on the same island. He broke his leg during the fall, but he was still alive. He was the only other survivor. But still, Linda wasn't happy to see him. Because he was the person she hated most in the entire company. Here's why. Linda was the most capable employee in the strategy department. She had worked incredibly hard and earned the boss's trust. She was about to become manager. But just before she could take the position, her boss died. And his son, Bradley, became the new owner of the company. As soon as Bradley took over, he snatched Linda's promotion away and gave it to his sneaky, sycophantic friend. And that wasn't all. He and his friends constantly humiliated Linda. Now, here they were. Stranded on a deserted island. And Bradley was completely at her mercy. Linda was tempted to leave him there. But then she thought, if she helped him, maybe she could become manager again. So she got to work. She picked up a sharp stone and started cutting banana leaves. Then, using a tree for support, she built a frame. She tied the leaves and branches together with vines, creating a small hut to protect them from the sun. Then she decided to find water. She dug a hole in the sand, placed coconut shells inside, and covered it with leaves. Soon, it started to rain. The shells collected plenty of drinking water. As soon as the rain stopped, the weather cleared. And Bradley regained consciousness. Linda rushed to his side and began giving him water. When Bradley realized that Linda had saved his life, he hesitated, but finally thanked her. And that's when the tension between them really began. Linda then showed off her survival skills. She rubbed sticks together to start a fire, and soon she had caught and cooked a fish. But for Bradley, a man who had lived a life of luxury, this fish was nothing short of garbage. Still, he had no choice. He forced himself to swallow the unsalted fish just to fill his stomach. Linda, on the other hand, had no problem with the food. In fact, she was quite happy to be stuck here. Because on this island, no one could put her down. She could happily spend days like this. Slowly, a few days passed. The isolation began to affect both of them in different ways. Linda was content with the simple life. But Bradley wanted to escape. He asked her, "Why haven't you made an SOS signal on the shore? Why haven't you built a bigger fire so someone could see the island?" According to him, that should have been the first thing Linda did. But she hadn't done anything like that, and that worried him. He started shouting angrily. He taunted her, accusing her of pretending to care for him for no reason. Even though he was helpless with a broken leg, even after all the help Linda had given him, he still treated her like she owed him everything. Listening to his cruel words, Linda realized something important. She couldn't win him over with kindness. The only way Bradley would understand her true worth was when he was in pain. So Linda got up without saying a word, and left him completely alone. At first, Bradley kept taunting her, mocking her for walking away. But after a while, he started to realize what a huge mistake he had made. Yet, he remained arrogant. And that's when the power shift really began. Bradley stayed right where she left him. He waited for Linda to come back on her own. But a whole day passed, and finally, his pride began to crumble. Even into the night. Linda never returned. Then, in the dead of night, a fierce storm swept in. Within minutes, even the hut Linda had built was blown away. The next day, the scorching sun made everything worse. Bradley fainted from dehydration. After Linda had tortured him enough, she finally returned. With water. Bradley didn't think. He grabbed the water and drank it rapidly. Now he finally understood. He was completely dependent on Linda. He could no longer assert any authority over her. But then, he spotted the spear in Linda's hand. She was about to use it to hunt a dangerous wild boar. Bradley knew that boar was deadly. So he begged her not to go into the forest. If something happens to you, he said, my own life is in danger too. But Linda didn't listen. She walked straight into the forest. She moved quietly, searching for prey. Then suddenly, the wild boar charged. It hit Linda and threw her into the air. Fortunately, a fallen tree blocked the boar's path, stopping it from attacking directly. That gave Linda just enough time to scramble to her feet and run. The boar caught her scent and chased after her. But all it found along the way were torn pieces of her clothes. Before the boar could understand what was happening, Linda seized her chance. She threw the spear straight into the boar's body. And that's when the tables turned. Linda thrust the spear deep into the boar. Maddened by the pain, the boar bent and broke the spear. Then, in a fit of rage, it charged at her again. Facing this new danger, Linda grabbed a wooden stick and braced herself. With one final, desperate strike, she killed the beast. Bradley watched the whole thing. The sight of the boar's severed head completely shook him. For the first time, he realized that Linda was truly dangerous. Truly powerful. Bradley now feared her. A few days later, while Linda was searching for supplies in the woods, she found something amazing. A freshwater spring. Clean water that could be drunk straight from the source. She no longer had to worry about water. She was relieved. But her joy was short-lived, because she heard something in the distance. The sound of an engine. A boat. Linda immediately ran toward the sound. When she reached the shore, she saw it. A real boat. A glimmer of hope filled her eyes. But just as she was about to scream for help, she stopped. She realized something important. If she went back, she would be trapped in the same old life again. She would have to work under another boss. She would have to listen to the same taunts every single day. But if she stayed here, she could do whatever she wanted. She would be her own master. She wouldn't have to answer to anyone. So she made a choice. She decided she wasn't leaving this island. She hid behind the trees and watched as the boat slowly sailed away. She didn't tell Bradley about it. Not until she returned to their camp. But Bradley, out of sheer compulsion, kept asking her. He didn't want to stay on this island forever. 2 weeks of this wild life had completely changed him. And his patience was now at an end. And that's when the final tension began to build. Bradley's patience was completely breaking down. He asked Linda to build a boat so they could reach a passing ship, or at least be seen by someone. But as soon as Linda heard him, she flatly refused. It's too dangerous, she said. Bradley was furious. Linda hadn't listened to him once since they'd been stranded on this island. He couldn't take it anymore. So he decided to separate from her. He would set up his own camp and build his own boat. But as soon as he started working alone, he realized it wasn't as easy as he thought. He didn't even know how to properly light a fire. And with a broken leg, he couldn't travel far. Out of desperation, he collected rainwater in a coconut shell. He built a small hut and wrote the word "help" in the sand. Then he waited. 2 days passed. Still no response from the sea. Hunger started to eat away at him. He was forced to try eating insects just to survive. But as soon as he swallowed them, the disgust was so overwhelming that he immediately threw up. Meanwhile, Linda was enjoying one of the best meals she had ever made. She ate comfortably while Bradley watched from a distance. Seeing her condition, Bradley's pride was completely shattered. Embarrassed and broken, he fell to his knees. He didn't even care about his injured leg anymore. He just sat there and apologized. Seeing his change of heart, Linda smiled. She took him back. But after feeling so humiliated, Bradley was also helpless inside. So he quietly waited for the right opportunity. And that's when everything changed. After about half a month, Bradley's condition began to improve. Then Linda took him to the highest peak on the island. It was difficult to reach, but the view was spectacular. Linda explained that the real danger was hidden in this beautiful-looking area. Then she picked some berries growing along the side of the path and explained that they contained a poison that numbs the body. She rubbed the juice of the fruit on her arm, and quickly, red pimples appeared on her skin. As they walked further, Linda pointed to rocks shaped like an X. She explained that the entire area ahead was covered in thorns and poisonous vines. She warned him sternly, never to go looking for anything in that place. Hearing this, Bradley's mind started working on a cunning plan. On the way back, he pretended to be tired. Then he slowly sat down near the poisonous berries. Quietly, he started picking some. Suddenly, the ground caved in. Linda sank straight down. The place had looked solid from the outside, but inside, it was completely hollow and weak. Bradley panicked. Even though he hated Linda, he couldn't watch her die like that. He immediately grabbed her and pulled her up. His efforts saved Linda's life. And for the first time, without saying a word, she began to trust Bradley. A few days later, a severe storm blew in at sea. Their hut near the shore was completely destroyed. Falling trees made everything worse. Fortunately, they had already found a shelter nearby. And that's when survival became even more dangerous. They found a cave. So both of them immediately ran there and hid. By then, they were completely soaked. They had to take off their clothes and huddle together to stay warm. They had to sleep holding each other. And this closeness caused Linda to slowly fall in love with Bradley. Bradley, on the other hand, had learned to identify every poisonous fruit in the forest. To show off and to thank Linda, he decided to cook dinner himself that night. Without much thought, Linda agreed. She gave him the chance. Surprisingly, the food he made was actually pretty tasty. But as soon as Linda ate a little, she suddenly felt dizzy. Her vision blurred. A few moments later, she lost her balance and collapsed to the ground. Bradley didn't even look back at her. He immediately ran off into the woods. He returned a short while later, pulling a wooden boat. The truth came out. He had realized that Linda would never let him leave. So he secretly built this boat. And at the right moment, he fed her the poisonous fruit. Now he was free. He happily pushed the boat into the water. Without looking back, he sped off toward the sea. But he hadn't gone far when suddenly, a massive wave smashed into his boat. The next moment, an even bigger wave rose up and dragged him straight into the sea. And that's when everything came full circle. Luckily, Bradley hadn't gone very far. As soon as he washed ashore, Linda pulled him back to safety and saved his life. Bradley, panicked and guilty, started apologizing. But Linda said nothing. She quietly handed him a cooked crab. Bradley ate it without thinking. But soon, his mouth went strangely numb. The effect spread throughout his entire body. He couldn't understand what was happening. Then Linda revealed the truth. "It's the venom of the blue ring octopus," she said. "It paralyzes the body in seconds. You won't be able to move, even if you want to." She had done all of this to teach Bradley a lesson. Then she took out a knife, heated it up a little, and quickly pulled off Bradley's pants. Slowly, she moved closer and started gesturing, showing him exactly what she was going to do next. Bradley was horrified. Suddenly, Linda swung the knife. Blood spurted out. Bradley's throat turned red. Then Linda smiled. She showed him what she had actually cut. It wasn't a human organ. It was a rat. She had done all of this just to scare him. Her cleverness, and the knife in her hand, completely shattered Bradley's pride. Without question, he began obeying her every command. But Linda didn't enjoy this control for long. And that's when the final chapter began. One day, while Linda was searching for supplies, she heard the sound of an engine again in the distance. This time, the people in the boat had already seen her. As the boat got closer, Linda saw that it was none other than Bradley's fiancée, Jenny. Even though the rescue team had given up, Jenny hadn't. She held on to hope and had been searching the same area for Bradley. And now, the search was over. Linda forced a smile, pretending to be happy to see her. Then, pretending to be relieved, she told Jenny that Bradley was alive. But the truth was, Linda still didn't want to leave the island. Only Jenny and the guide accompanying her knew about their survival. That gave Linda a dangerous idea. She lied. She claimed she knew a shortcut and began leading them in that direction. After a while, she brought them to the edge of a dangerous cliff, the same place where she herself had narrowly escaped death. Then she made up an excuse about tying her shoelaces and told both of them to go ahead. As Jenny stepped forward, the ground suddenly caved in. She began falling straight down. It was all Linda's plan. She wanted to kill them both. But luckily, only Jenny got trapped. The guide was still alive. Linda stood there, frozen. Her mind raced, not knowing what to do. Some time later, she returned to Bradley alone. What had happened to the other two, would soon be revealed. After coming back from the cliff, Linda was in a state of complete despair. She couldn't believe what she had done. And that's when everything started to fall apart. Just then, Bradley came over and asked Linda to go into the woods to find some food. But Linda flatly refused, pretending she wasn't feeling well. Bradley saw his chance. Without saying a word, he grabbed his knife and headed into the woods alone. Once inside, he decided to hunt. He stalked quietly for a while. Then he spotted a small wild boar. He slowly crept toward it. But the next moment, his eyes fell on the ground. The boar had been digging. And sticking out from the dirt. A human hand. Bradley's blood ran cold. He moved closer. The ring on the finger was unmistakable. It was the same one he had given his fiancée, Jenny, when they got engaged. The truth hit him like a thunderbolt. Linda had killed her. Linda had buried her here. Bradley's anger exploded. He turned and ran straight back to camp. Linda was startled when she saw him storming toward her. Bradley held up the ring and demanded, "Why did you do this?" Linda understood everything the moment she saw it. To protect herself, she stammered, "It was an accident, it wasn't my fault." But Bradley didn't believe her. Sensing the situation was about to turn deadly, Linda slowly reached for her waistband. But Bradley had already taken the knife. She had no weapon. Panicked, Linda ran into the woods. Bradley chased after her. With no way to escape, Linda quickly came up with a plan. She hid behind a tree. Bradley saw her shadow and moved in. But when he got there, he found only her abandoned shoes. The laces were missing. He sensed something was wrong. Suddenly, Linda attacked him from behind. She wrapped a shoelace around his neck and pulled tight. Bradley fought back, but she was too strong. Too desperate. Within moments, Bradley collapsed to the ground. Dead. And that's when the final act of this dark story began. Bradley couldn't breathe. He tried with all his might, but Linda wouldn't loosen her grip. In the struggle, Bradley's hand slipped, and the knife fell free. With one final push, he grabbed Linda's hair and threw her to the ground. He climbed on top of her and tried to finish her off by shoving her face into the mud. Then, as soon as she got the chance, Linda grabbed the knife. When she wiped the dirt from her eyes and looked again, Bradley had disappeared. He was heading toward the same poisonous area that Linda had forbidden him to enter. Seeing this, Linda didn't chase after him. She quietly turned back. Bradley kept moving. He stayed silent until he looked ahead, and then he froze. Between two towering rocks, stood a luxurious villa. He realized the truth. This wasn't a deserted island. It was someone's private island. With a new ray of hope, Bradley rushed toward the villa and started shouting for help. But inside, there was no response. Then he noticed the door was open. Once inside, Bradley quickly turned on the lights and looked around for anything useful. Then he found the fridge. He opened it, and saw a variety of modern drinks inside. Exhausted by thirst, Bradley grabbed a bottle of water and started drinking. But then, everything suddenly changed. Somehow, Linda's voice came booming from the speakers. As Bradley listened to her, the truth began to dawn on him. And that's when the real nightmare began. Bradley finally realized the truth. The whole story about the toxic area was a lie. Linda had made it all up just to keep him away from this place. Now Linda explained everything without hesitation. The ship she had first seen, came here every month to deliver supplies. That's how she discovered this luxurious villa. She secretly inspected the keypad at the door and, at the right moment, completely took over the place. The owner rarely came here. So she cleaned everything every time and lived comfortably. No one suspected a thing. Everything went perfectly according to her plan. But Jenny's unexpected arrival disrupted everything. Unintentionally, circumstances led Linda to take that terrible step, killing her. Bradley was shocked by this truth. He groped around in the dark, trying to find the control room, but he couldn't. Then suddenly, the tables turned. Because Linda herself came looking for him. She had already found a hunting gun inside the villa. As soon as Bradley saw it, he dropped to his knees and begged for his life. He promised he wouldn't run away. He said he would stay and spend his life with her. He even claimed that during this time, he had truly fallen in love with her. To reassure Linda, he started talking about the beautiful moments they had shared together. But as Linda listened, she sensed something was wrong. Her eyes caught something behind Bradley. A detail that didn't match. The next moment, Linda grabbed a golf stick that was sitting nearby. Bradley grabbed the gun. But when he pulled the trigger, nothing happened. It was empty. Linda had planned everything ahead of time. Without hesitation, she raised the golf stick and started beating Bradley. Blow after blow. The last hit was so powerful that Bradley died on the spot. And that's where the story ends. Linda cleaned up the villa. She presented herself as the only survivor. Then she turned the whole incident into a survival miracle. She made herself famous. And gradually, she became very rich. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one.